So, Natalie, what did you find out?
Well, Katie, these documents are the direct accounts of what Officer Sean Williams and Sergeant David Darkow say happened that night that they confronted Crawford. It outlines when they arrived at Walmart, what they told the different parties there, and what was going through their minds during these intense moments. Officer Sean Williams says he was not even originally dispatched to Walmart the night he shot Crawford. He happened to be completing paperwork right behind the building when the weapons complaint call came through.
Welcome to Inside Evil Interrogations, where we break down real-life cases and delve into the minds behind controversial incidents. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping analyses of interrogations that expose the truth behind tragic events. Today, we analyze the 60-minute interrogation of Sergeant David Darkow, a police officer involved in the fatal shooting of John Crawford III. In August 2014, Crawford was holding an airsoft pellet gun while shopping in a Walmart when a 911 call described him as a dangerous active shooter. Darkow and his partner, Officer Sean Williams, responded to the scene, ultimately leading to Crawford's death. This interrogation reveals the pressures of split-second decision-making and how perceptions of danger can shape outcomes in high-stress scenarios. Detectives begin the interrogation by asking Darkow to recount the events leading up to the shooting. Darkow details his relaxed start to the shift, which abruptly shifted when dispatch reported an active shooter at Walmart. He explains how he responded to the call with urgency, toggling his siren to avoid escalating the situation. Darkow's recount emphasizes his reliance on the initial 911 call, which described a suspect waving a rifle at children. Forensic experts note the heavy weight placed on this report, which set the stage for heightened fear and rapid response tactics. Darkow's calm demeanor suggests an officer trying to balance accountability with the belief that he acted correctly.
Again, we're here to discuss what occurred at the Walmart on the 5th. That would be Wednesday the 5th. Tuesday the 5th. Tuesday night the 5th. So I'm going to take some notes as we go through. I do want to get a couple more bits of information from you just to verify. You told me you're Sergeant David Darkow, your rank is Sergeant. What's your badge number, Dave?
70.
Is that the same as your radio call sign?
Yes.
Okay. How many years experience do you have with the department?
17.
17. Is that all with Beaver Creek in your law enforcement experience?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't let me know about the button that says we crack. Or give me around, I'll be perfect.
Okay. Let's just go right to it. Let's go to Tuesday night. Start wherever you like to. We're looking at what's your first knowledge of an incident at Walmart. Or else if you can start earlier than that, go ahead. But take me through it. We're going to ask you a lot of questions. I'm going to try to let you go through it once the first time and tell us what happened.
Okay. I was speaking with Sergeant Spangler, who was off duty. I was parked outside of his house at the curb. We were just chatting about whatever, personal stuff.
Outside where the curb did?
Right outside of Sergeant Spangler's residence.
Okay.
He lives. He lives back in that plat. So I was fairly close to where the incident had occurred when it came out.
You were on duty?
I was on duty. Okay. Sergeant Spangler was off duty.
Okay.
It's a friend of mine, so sometimes I'll go over there. We'll chat about stuff. Since I don't see him,
right?
Sometimes,
Okay.
I go over there and we discuss work-related things or personal things, whatever.
Okay.
So I was sitting there talking to him when the initial call came out.
Approximate time?
8:20.
Okay. 8 p.m. thereafter.
Correct. Dispatch came over the radio, sent officers to Walmart on it was a weapons complaint that was being called in on 911. And I remember the broadcast saying that there was a man inside with a gun.
Okay.
So I immediately left Sergeant Spangler's residence and started heading to that location.
The 911 dispatcher told the officers that it was a confirmed active shooter.
Officers, I did not get on the radio to say I was en route, simply because I didn't want to tie up radio time. And I had other officers who were responding to dispatch saying they were en route.
Okay.
If I take over the radio, nobody else can talk.
Understood.
So I just go.
Yeah.
Responded code 3 to the area of Walmart. While I was en route, there was a couple more broadcasts from dispatch saying that the caller was reporting that he believed the subject was in the pet supply area of Walmart, that he was in the corner, and that he believed he was loading the gun. Able to give us updates as we were responding to the scene. I'm pretty familiar with that store. I've worked in there for all kinds of calls and extra duty during the holidays. So I knew where the pet supply area was. And when I pulled in over by the Sam's. That's where I entered the lot at the Sam's location.
Okay.
So I knew the closest entrance was that garden area, the outdoor area of Walmart. And so I came in that direction, responded right to those doors, because if he was in the pet area, that garden entrance would have put me literally right around the corner. As soon as I entered the store from the garden area, it would have taken me right to the pet area, which would have been on my right. So I go up, I park. I see that Sean had already called 3-7. I had heard that he was already on scene.
Sean being who?
Sean Williams, officer that works 11 to 11.
Okay.
And I had heard he was already on scene. I didn't know where he was until I pulled up, and then he came running up to my location. He had a rifle. We knew that the subject who was inside was possibly armed with a rifle. That's what was being reported to us. And so I went, as soon as I pulled up, I went to the back. In the supervisor's cars, we keep our rifle, shotgun, and less lethal gun in a vault container in the back. So I went around to the back, grabbed the service rifle from the vault in the car, and grabbed a tactical vest that belongs to Sergeant Molnar. Him and I share a car, and so it's known that we'll share that tactical vest, and it has extra mags for the AR, tactical equipment, that type of thing.
Okay.
So I grabbed that vest, throw that around, load my AR, and now Sean has his AR, I have my AR, and we tried to enter through the garden area, which would have been the closest area to where the suspect was.
And you say AR, you mean AR-15?
AR-15,
okay.
Department issued assault rifle, although Sean Williams, I think, is his personal assault rifle.
All right.
So we attempted to go through those garden doors, and the doors were locked, unfortunately. This caused us to both have to respond to the next set of doors into Walmart, which would be closest to the pharmacy type area.
Okay.
So it'd be the westernmost entrance that was open.
Okay. And so we can understand the layout. When you responded to the garden doors that were locked, is that in the front or the side of the building?
Front of the building.
Okay. And the other entrance that you went to is also in the front of the building?
Correct.
Okay.
So it'd be the next western entrance.
Gotcha.
Or I'm sorry, it would be the most western entrance, but it was to the east of the garden doors.
Got it. Okay.
So we walk in, and immediately we're at a brisk pace, and I immediately see that a greeter still at the front entrance. It appeared as though some of the people around there had no idea what was going on. So I started giving commands to the greeter to get cover, get down.
When the police arrived on the scene, an effort was made to evacuate the Walmart. Many customers had no idea what was going on, but panicked as soon as they were told there was a shooter in the building.
I believe Sean was also telling people to get out, take cover, this type of thing.
Okay.
We both are familiar with the store, so we walk in that entrance, go left down the aisle, past the pharmacy, heading towards the pet supply area.
Is it like a center aisle? Is it a side aisle? I mean, it's not the side. It's not the side of the building aisle. It's more one of the. I know you have many center aisles, but it's one that's in toward the center.
This is the aisle we're headed down. Is one of their main aisles that extends all the way across the store.
One of several that extend all the way to the back, front to back. Correct.
We're going sideways. We're going side
Okay.
at this point. We go in the front entrance. We go left, and now we're headed west through the store.
Gotcha.
This aisle goes all the way from the garden access doors,
Gotcha.
all the way to the produce.
Okay.
So it would go all the way through,
Okay.
cutting the store all the way.
And I want to cut. I want to keep you talking on that. The pet section is in. You sound very familiar with the directionality of the store. The pet section is in what corner of the store?
It is in the southwest corner of the store.
Okay, and that's the southwest corner of the store. Is it front corner or back corner?
Front.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave. Thanks.
Okay, so we're both moving in tandem at a brisk pace, not a run, but a brisk walk. We start, we enter the pet supply area and don't hear or see anything initially, so we start, walking as we're clearing each aisle, as we're walking back to that corner location. Nobody else in the pet area, from what I remember at the time. We finally get to the very last aisle, and I realize that there's a fairly good chance that he's probably back there since we haven't come across him yet.
You've cleared all the other aisles.
Right, we're clearing him to our left as we're walking back west.
Okay.
So we're clearing each aisle. We get to the very last one, and I remember slowing up a bit because I figured he's probably in that very last aisle. Have my rifle at low ready, and I glance around that last aisle end cap, and I see a male that fits the description that we were dispatched to. He's standing in the corner of the store. He has a rifle that looks very similar to what I know to be an AR-15 style assault weapon. He also has it in what I would refer to as a low ready type position, where his left hand is on the foregrip of the rifle, and his right hand is near the action portion of the rifle.
Crawford had removed.
Darkow describes arriving at Walmart and coordinating with Officer Williams. They entered the store, issuing commands to customers to take cover. He recounts seeing Crawford holding what appeared to be an assault rifle and shouting at him to drop the weapon. Crawford's reaction, described as shocked, added to the tension as he failed to comply with commands. Forensic analysis highlights the significant role of visual perception in this phase. The officer's belief that Crawford posed an imminent threat, coupled with the limited time to assess the situation, illustrates the psychological challenges faced during high-pressure encounters.
The view of his right hand, because it was covered by the rifle, but I remember him holding the rifle in like a low ready type position. And he was more or less facing us at this point, or maybe slightly candid. It would be his right, our left. So I took up a position where I tried to stay a little bit behind cover to some degree at the end cap, glanced around the corner, and started giving him verbal commands to drop the gun.
What specifically did you say? That you recall?
It was either drop the gun or drop the weapon.
Okay.
But I was very loud and very clear.
Go ahead.
Okay. At this point, I remember Sean Williams, Officer Sean Williams. He was in a position where he was to my rear as we were going down the aisleways clearing them. And at this point, I remember he came around to my right. I was looking left. He came around to my right and took a position further out in the aisle. So I'm focused in on the suspect. I give him commands. I remember Sean also yelling a command. I believe he said something very similar to me, drop the weapon. And then I yelled at one point for him to get on the ground. And when I first yelled, drop the gun or drop the weapon, I remember he had a look of shock when he realized that we were there.
Crawford was shocked. As far as he knew, he was minding his own business when suddenly he was surrounded by armed officers yelling at him. Some people freeze out of fear, while others have a harder time processing what is going on and continue to move. It is a natural reaction that proved fatal for Crawford.
Still had the gun, but kind of looked up and had a shocking look on his face and kind of stepped back. At that point, despite our repeated attempts to tell him to put the gun down and get on the ground, he did neither, and he started moving in an eastern direction. So he kind of turned back and to his right, my left, and acted as though he was either going to start running or take a position of cover behind the aisle.
Okay.
That's when I heard 2 shots go out from my right, and I knew it was coming from Sean Williams, Officer Sean Williams' rifle.
Okay.
Any questions?
I'll let you continue on from there. What happened after the shots were fired?
After the shots are fired, the suspect goes down. And the only thing I can tell you is that when he ran to my left, to his right, when he started to go down that area, I was better covered in my position, but I had less of a vantage point on him because now he's going down the aisle that I'm taking cover behind.
Right.
I remember thinking, I didn't know if he was hit or not, but he did go down in that direction. And so I remember thinking, well, I've got to get back to this other aisle in case he didn't.
Right.
He suddenly started to get back up, and that's when it crossed my mind that maybe he didn't get hit. Like maybe he just fell because he had tripped or something.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, I'm going to have to get over to this next aisle for if he makes it over that.
Yeah.
He didn't. He went back down again and stayed there. Sean approached, and then I approached and hit the suspect. I covered.
And he's down now.
He's down now. I immediately radioed for the shots fired, and I needed an ambulance on my radio. It's right here. And then kind of covered Sean. Sean went up, handcuffed him. I do recall after the shots went off, the suspect, I believe he muttered something after the 2 shots. There was 2 shots that went off from Sean's rifle. I believe the suspect may have muttered something after the shots, but I have no idea what it was. My right ear was ringing. It was completely numb. That's where the rounds had gone off. So if he said anything or muttered anything, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
And again, that's after the shots were fired that you heard him possibly saying things?
Yes.
Okay. How's your ear now?
It's okay now. It was ringing off and on for probably about 2 days.
Yeah. Did you see anybody forward or anything?
No.
Medical. Okay.
No.
Are you on admin leave now?
Yes.
David? Okay. And that's just department protocol typically, is the way they explain it to you?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, he's down. Sean cuffed him. You call him for medical assistance, and just go from there. You're still there for a while. What else is going on?
Yeah. At that point, we started to, the other officers began arriving on scene. And my officers are great at thinking what needs to be done and doing it. Every once in a while, someone would ask me, what they wanted, or what I wanted them to do, and basically, I was directing them to get everybody out of the store, but contain outside so that we had witnesses.
Gotcha.
And I wanted the people out,
right,
but not to leave. So I was trying to give them direction to evacuate people out, but maintain our witnesses once we got out there.
Sure.
Cordon off the scene. Somebody brought in tape. I can't tell you who it was.
Good enough on that, yeah.
Brought in tape and started cordoning off the area. I remember Sean yelling for Stahl to go get his first aid kit, which was a great move. So Officer Stahl, when it responded to his vehicle, his cruiser.
Most of the officers who arrived did not know what was going on. The information that had been relayed to them was inaccurate, which would take time to sort out.
Got our first aid kit, and Officer Sean Williams and Officer Matt Stahl began attempting first aid by using a tourniquet.
Okay. So suspect bleeding.
Suspect's bleeding. I would call it kind of a labor breathing.
Okay.
I could see that his elbow was shattered, and I could see that he was on his belly. He was cuffed, and I could see that he was bleeding from another location. It wasn't necessarily his elbow, but it was clear that there was other injuries. I don't know where, but it was coming out of probably this area because the blood was starting to pool there. His eyes were open for some time, but then they started to roll back in his head, and his breathing started becoming more laborious.
All right. And then anything more pertinent at that point? Can we ask you some more questions until EMS arrives as far as the medical? You guys did what you could. EMS does arrive, correct?
EMS arrives, and after they arrived, my role became more of one where I needed to deal with the officer that was involved at this point. Medical was there, and so I wanted to get the officer away from the scene at that point, and I secured his rifle. I gave him my rifle, and then I called for another medic for him.
You gave who your rifle?
Sean Williams, Officer Sean Williams.
Okay, so you took his rifle because it would have been involved in the shooting?
Correct.
Okay. And what's the purpose of giving him yours?
I was always trained as a supervisor. You don't leave them unarmed, but you switch if you have to, and give him your weapon.
Okay.
So that he doesn't feel like he's weaponless.
Okay, so that matches up to your training.
Correct.
Okay. To take us a little further, what else?
Okay, I secured his rifle outside in the rear of my cruiser. And the rest of my interaction really dealt with Sean Williams, Officer Sean Williams, and seeing to it that he got medical attention and was transported to the hospital. It should probably be noted that Sergeant Molinar was leaving work at the time this went out.
Okay.
He was still at the building, and so he heard it over the radio and immediately came up to the scene. Sergeant Molinar did a great job at taking over a command, incident command at the scene.
Okay.
Since I was in no position to be doing that.
Okay.
And he orchestrated a lot of the efforts between us, the fire department, mutual aid who was responding in, Greene County Sheriff's deputies
Big
responded.
response,
Yeah. We got Fairborn,
Right.
Greene County, I think Wright State may have come. So, I mean, there was a lot. You know, we had a medical issue that was also going on.
The stress of the incident caused another shopper to have a fatal heart attack.
From a female who had gone down because of a medical issue, completely unrelated as far as the shooting's concerned, but was there at the same time. So we had two people that were having unrelated medical some incidents of some kind, and then the suspects.
So you're saying there was 3 total?
We had three medics responding to those 3 people, and then I was calling for a 4th medic for Officer Sean Williams.
Okay.
So it was kind of a big scene.
Was calling for Williams, was he actually hurt, or was it more of a protocol of the situation?
I've always been trained that that's what you do when an officer is involved in a shooting, is you call a medical. You don't know what's going on internally with them. You just want, it's precautionary, but also it's a traumatic incident. So post-traumatic, you want to make sure that they're well taken care of. Check his vitals, transport to the hospital, just get them checked over. So it was procedural, but that's how I've been trained.
Okay. So when you're referring to those extra medical instances, you had the suspect,
Yes.
the young lady who unfortunately passed away of the heart condition, and then what was the other situation?
You know, I learned later that there was another female who was pregnant.
Okay, so you don't have to comment on anything those you learned later. You weren't directly aware or involved in any of the other 2 medical incidents.
I knew that medics were responding for people that were having some kind of medical issue, but I wasn't involved in those at all.
Good enough.
The only thing I did was I contacted Officer Nicely at one point to make sure that they had an AED for the girl that was having a heart attack, and she responded affirmative. They were trying the AED on her.
You made that call over the radio?
Yes.
Okay. And did you say, so you said you didn't call in on your response to the scene. Were you on the radio during that entire time for anything else?
While I was responding to the scene?
Yeah.
I think my first broadcast was to tell them that I was on scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to play some radio traffic for you so you can identify yourself and go back and refresh your memory on what's occurring. We're going to take you through it several times, Dave, with a lot of questions. But I did want to point out, we are here at the time of your choosing because you have a closing on your house today, correct?
I do.
Okay. What time does that occur?
1.
Okay. And it's about 10:45 right now, so we expect to have you out in plenty of time for that, but I did want to make note of that we try to accommodate your time. We try to accommodate getting in here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get through what we can here. And Dave, did you make a verbal statement to the department after the incident?
Yes.
Okay, was it verbal or written?
Verbal.
Okay, and recorded?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything that you recall about that verbal statement that you feel needs to change at this time?
I don't think so.
Okay. And I know it's been a couple days. I know it's very significant and potentially traumatic incident, so, we understand any variability on that. But no written statement whatsoever, correct?
No.
Okay, and they just, as a department, they just took your statement and then put you on admin leave as a matter of department protocol?
Correct.
Okay.
As Crawford moved, Darkow describes his actions as erratic, suggesting he was either seeking cover or preparing to flee. Officer Williams fired 2 shots, striking Crawford, who collapsed. Darkow recalls being unsure if Crawford was hit initially, noting his struggle to get back up before falling again. This segment underscores the ambiguity of split-second decisions. Forensic experts would focus on how fear and incomplete information influence the officer's perceptions of danger. Darkow's account reveals the difficulty in distinguishing between real threats and benign actions in chaotic environments.
Response, you stated that you were told there was a suspect armed in the Walmart and believed to be in the corner of the pet section or in the pet section, appeared to be loading a gun, and the gun appeared to be a rifle.
Correct.
Am I missing anything significant on those details?
The man who called 911 had military experience and told the dispatcher that Crawford had an AK-15 and was pointing it at children.
At one point, I believe I remember Sean Williams getting on and asking dispatch over the radio if to confirm that he was waving it or pointing it at people, and
okay.
Dispatch said affirmative.
Okay, and that's
pretty significant.
Yes, sir. Staying with that for a minute, and I apologize, we might jump a little bit, but since we're on communications, when you and Williams are entering the story, you didn't really state that you guys had any verbal communication. Did you guys discuss anything going through?
As far as me and him before we entered, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, before, during, and
Like game plan type scenario?
You know, I don't recall a lot of verbal communication between. We both just kind of knew what to do.
you heard the same thing on the radio. You knew where you were going.
We knew, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we both knew the area. We both, you know, I parked over by the garden area, so I think Sean had parked on the other side, and when he saw me pull up, he walked my way.
Yep.
I think I'm only speculating that he figured that's where we were going to go in.
Okay.
So he came to me, but then those doors were locked, and so there wasn't a lot of verbal communication between us. As soon as we entered the store, we were both communicating with other people,
right?
Trying to. I don't remember.
Fair enough.
If we had any type of communication, I'm not recalling that.
And your point being, seemingly, you guys have trained for situations like this, and there
We
wasn't
had
a lot.
just trained for situations like
Give me
this.
something on that. What would you train?
We had just had, some people call it an active shooter training, some people call it a quad training.
Okay.
We had just gone through that. Our training records can reflect the exact date,
Sure.
but it was within a month. I think we did it July. My platoon was a Thursday in July. Possibly even the 24th or something.
Okay.
I don't have my phone on me. So I
That's
can't.
no problem. Those are details we can verify later.
Yeah. So you can imagine. I mean, it was within weeks. We had just been through this training.
20 days with it. Or how many hours?
It was a 8-hour block of quad training.
Who ran that? Do you remember?
Yeah, Officer Suki runs that training for
Through this
in-house.
department?
Yes.
Okay, in-house.
Yeah.
Had you had active shooter training before that?
No, yeah, we have it annually.
Okay. Building clearings involved in that at all? Okay.
Building clearing. In fact, that was most of this training. This time was building training.
Okay. And you
Or
said,
building clearing, I'm sorry.
good enough, yeah. You said that your platoon, you call your platoon, is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay, your platoon was involved in this training, and Sean Williams is a part of your platoon?
Yeah, he is on my, well, He would have been with another platoon for this training.
Okay, but he's had this training recently as well?
Oh, yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
have it annually?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not directly under my platoon, even though he works 4 hours with me. He works on a power shift, so it's a little different.
You don't recall any communication with him walking through as you were clearing aisles, even to the point of, you know, you stated at a certain point you told the suspect put the weapon down or put the gun down.
Yeah.
Did you have any communication directly with Officer Williams between that time at all that you recall?
No.
Okay. Do you recall stating either again put the gun down or put the weapon down? Do you recall if you had stated it multiple times, one time?
I know I stated it one time, and I know that I told...
Before, you told him to get on the ground before any shots were fired?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe I told him to get on the ground, or no, I'm sorry. I told him to, I know for a fact that I told him to drop the gun. That was my first communication with him.
Okay.
That's when he kind of shockingly glanced over. That was the first time he knew we were there.
Okay.
And I know that Sean again told him to.
Right. Okay. Do you remember what Sean said?
It was drop your weapon, something to that effect.
Do you recall if he repeated it once, twice?
I only remember once.
Okay. How close in succession did he repeat commands after you, to the best of your recollection, Dave?
Time's tough under these circumstances.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was fairly close.
Okay.
It all happened very, very quickly. I mean,
and we're kind of to the meat of it here, and there's a lot of other kind of accessory questions, and I'm going to ask you some things that you've already stated, and I want to assure you I'm not trying to trip you up. It's so we get a clear understanding of what occurred, and it is tough to go through, especially in a critical incident like that, and have, you know, a very solid recollection of all the key minor details. When you, according to what you said, you made first observation of the suspect before Williams did. Williams is on the other side of you. Is that sound accurate?
yeah, he was more to my rear as we were going down the aisles clearing them.
Okay, so to the best of your recollection, you would have seen the suspect first before, and you don't have to speak for Sean Williams, he's not here,
Right.
but in your mind, you probably saw the guy before Williams did.
I believe so.
Okay, so your command came first.
Right.
Did you run hot to the scene? Your vehicle, did you run hot to the scene?
Code 3, yeah.
Okay. Sirens, lights, everything going. Did you see anybody else's vehicle hot? You know, Williams was there. Do you know if he ran hot? Was his light still on?
No, I don't know, because he was right there,
Okay.
so I don't even know
Okay.
if he responded code 3 or not. He was over by the BP, which is located right beside Walmart.
Okay.
So he would have been literally in the same parking lot.
Okay.
And he parked over on the east side, towards the east side. So I don't know. I never even saw his vehicle. And when I got there, I pulled up.
Yep.
I immediately started to get out and go to the vault to get my weapon as he was walking up to me.
Okay. Is this a call like this? Is this something that changes your mind frame when you get a call of a armed suspect in a public store?
Absolutely.
Okay. When you received that call, did you immediately think to yourself that you may have to engage an armed suspect?
Yeah.
Okay. So you ran hot to the scene for that. You weren't running covertly.
No.
Okay.
And there was a couple times where I toggled my siren. My lights were on, but I toggled my siren on and off. And honestly, it's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of a toss-up, because you know you have to clear intersections. You can't be a traffic hazard on your way there. But it's always in the back of my mind when I'm going to something like this that, you know, if I run up blazing with my siren, you can turn very quickly turn a situation into like a hostage situation.
Yeah.
At some point.
There's no strict training black and white that says you respond to this type of scene this way or this because you have imperfect information coming in on the radio. You know you've got an armed guy where there's civilians and possibly dozens, if not hundreds of them in a Walmart. You're doing what you think is the best under the situation and getting there and letting people know you're coming.
Yeah, and at the same time, I didn't want to turn, if you, for instance, it's like you're responding to a potential bank robbery.
Mm-hmm.
You go in blazing with your lights and siren, you can turn a bank robbery into a hostage situation very quickly if you come in, with your siren on. So as I'm responding, I toggled the siren on and off to try to, just try to prevent something like that from happening.
Great. And you stated also, so again, the suspect, to your knowledge, at least at that point, was in the front of the store.
Yes.
Near the front of the store. You're arriving in the front of the store.
Yes.
You're arriving hot, so your sirens are going. So that's an indication the police are on the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I had killed the sirens, but, when I got into the parking lot, I killed the sirens.
Okay. But you entered the parking lot first before you shut them down? To the best of your recollection?
Yes.
Okay.
Crawford did not show any indication on the surveillance video that he heard the sirens.
And as soon
Because I jumped over the Pentagon intersection as I was coming down Commons.
Okay.
So I'm coming down Commons, and when I got through the Pentagon, that's a busy intersection.
Mm-hmm.
So I got through the Pentagon intersection, entered the Sam's, it would be the Sam's parking lot first.
Okay.
I believe I shut my sirens down at that point.
Okay.
Still had the lights going, but I shut the sirens down.
What was the reason for shutting them down?
The sirens,
Mm-hmm.
just like I stated, I'm approaching the scene,
Okay.
and just from a tactical standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you enter the store, you stated that you pretty much immediately were yelling at people to take cover.
Yeah. The first person we came to was the greeter.
Okay.
And I could tell the greeter had no idea what was going on.
Okay. What was your tone like? What was your volume like when you're telling them to take cover?
I would say it was a medium tone. I mean, I can have kind of a loud, booming voice anyway.
Okay.
So I wasn't screaming at them, but I was very direct.
Okay.
And said, "Get down, get cover."
Okay. Couple of times?
Yes.
All right. Did that, so that's in the direct front of the store, I'm assuming registers right there and so forth, the greeter?
No, the register.
So you're not even past the greeter area in the Walmart, which is the entrance section.
Yeah, the entrance section, I call them a greeter, but really they stand there and watch people as they're leaving.
Right.
So, so all the registers would have been to our right.
Okay. Did you say anything further to the people that you encountered at that point?
We both were telling people, get down, get cover. I remember at least twice yelling at people to get down and get cover.
Okay.
Darkow recounts the immediate aftermath, including his efforts to secure the scene and provide medical aid to Crawford. He describes how the chaotic environment, including bystanders and miscommunication, added complexity to their response. Darkow emphasizes his adherence to training, noting that he followed protocol by securing weapons and coordinating with other officers. Forensic analysis would highlight the procedural correctness of this phase, while questioning how the initial misinterpretation of events escalated to fatal violence.
And then as we started going back towards the pharmacy area, and subsequently to the pet supply area, it seemed like there was a lot less people. So I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I engaged anybody else at that point.
Okay.
We didn't see anybody else at that point.
Okay. Did it seem like anybody was fleeing at that point or anything?
I don't remember anybody fleeing at that point.
Okay.
I was pretty focused on the aisles leading up to the pet and then the pet aisle. So my attention wasn't so much what was going on in the store. It was to my left down the aisles.
Gotcha.
Pharmacy and then pet.
You're doing what you can to tell people there's a situation. You want them to be safe. It's Sometimes you're not sure where to tell people to evacuate or take cover in those types of situations.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Okay. The what uniform did you have on, if you did have one?
It's our summer uniform shirt. It's a polo shirt with a badge on this side, name on this side, police across the back, in big lettering.
You threw your vest over the uniform?
I did have a tactical vest over. It wasn't zipped up, so it would have been open still.
Okay. Do you recall if your tactical vest has police on the back of it as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not. I don't own it.
Okay.
And I know. Sergeant Molnar would know that. It's his vest.
You come in uniformed. You came in at least up to the parking lot lights and sirens, telling people to take cover. Do you recall ever staying police at any point in the evening? Okay. You felt that your presence was identified at least by what you were wearing and in that situation.
Yes.
And again, you did tell the suspect to get down. You don't recall at that moment saying anything about police.
Correct.
Okay. Let's stick in the corner for a minute, Dave. When you first encountered the suspect, you said that you could observe he was holding a weapon.
Yes.
Okay, and you even went to specify that it looked like it could be an AR-15 or that type of...
That style of assault rifle, yes.
Okay, and you had no other information.
Darkow and the others had been told that the weapon was an AK-15. Going in with that belief, they would not have looked closely, since that is what they expected to see.
Then what you've already said about the weapon and what type it may be, or the authenticity of such weapon?
No, I mean it looked exactly like an AR style rifle that I've seen 100 times, and the information we were getting from dispatch was that he was possibly loading the rifle.
And that came across radio traffic?
Yes.
Okay.
When we were responding.
And you were aware that there was a witness, I think you even stated that, there was a witness right there giving information to dispatch, a witness in the store.
We had a 911 call. Our 911 caller was still online with dispatch.
Okay. Dave, we're almost 3 days from the incident now. Some of this has been released in the media. Are you aware at this point what that weapon was?
Yes.
Okay. When did you first become aware of that?
I got a call from Sergeant Molnar. I think it was later that night, after I was already home.
Okay. At any time during your response prior to the shooting, did anybody indicate to you he's holding a pellet gun?
No.
Okay.
In fact, when I left the scene to go to the hospital with Officer Williams, I was still under the impression that it was a real AR-15.
And that's how long after the shooting incident? Are we talking an hour? Are we talking...
Oh yeah, if the shooting occurred somewhere around 8:20 p.m., I wasn't released to go home until after midnight.
Okay, so hours
Yeah.
before you even... Okay.
I had no idea it was a pellet gun until I got a call at home.
Right, and it sounds like, Dave, you did everything you were trained to do as far as the response after the shooting, and you left it up to the incident commander coming on scene. They secured it. You guys had secured the suspect.
Yeah.
There's no other suspects involved that you could identify. So, as far as you know, everything was secured. Somebody had eyes on the weapon on the ground. The priority wasn't to check that weapon at that time or clear that. It was to get medical attention for the suspect. Is all that's inaccurate?
Right. Yeah. That's accurate. We had roped off the area. We had given attempted first aid to the suspect, got him removed. Then my attention turned to getting the officer medical attention, because the scene was secure at that point. We had mutual aid that was being called in to do secondary searches of the building to ensure there was no other suspects and no other problems, and try to get more people evacuated, because we were still getting reports that people were still locked in the pharmacy area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ever found them, so I don't know where the delay came from.
Mm-hmm.
But we kept getting calls from people that were hunkered down in the pharmacy area.
Okay.
And I don't know what happened with them.
Okay, well...
obviously they got out at some point.
Right.
But yeah, that's
Right.
the kind of chaotic scene we're dealing with.
Right, right. Lots of people in a Walmart at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. Dave, so you're told the suspect has a weapon. As you responded to the scene, did you have any reason to believe that he wasn't armed?
No. I had
You-
every reason to believe he was armed with a rifle, and he was possibly loading that rifle.
Okay, and even to the extent where someone said he was waving it at customers.
Waving it at pointing and or waving it at customers, at other people.
So
in the store.
during your response, at any time, did you believe that the public may be under threat because of this call?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. When you were entering the building, did you at all fear for your own safety or take precautions for your own safety?
Absolutely.
Okay. When you round the corner, you see the suspect. Now, you knew that you were looking for somebody in the pet aisle holding a rifle.
Right.
Did you have any other description on the suspect before you entered?
I don't remember if, for some reason, I believe I remember dispatch saying it was a black male.
Okay.
I don't know.
So your key to that was you're looking for somebody holding a rifle.
My key was looking for I remember it was a male subject, and they were holding a rifle, and they were in the pet area.
Okay. You made the first call to have the suspect put the gun down. The first command to him.
Yes.
The 911 caller spoke as if there was no doubt about what he was seeing and that people were in imminent danger. The police had to act with the thought that innocent people could be killed at any moment.
Williams made the secondary command, same or similar.
Yes.
And then he fired.
Yeah, and at one point I told him to get on the ground.
Okay.
And whether that was as the shots were going off or whether it was before the shots were going off, I do remember saying that.
Did the suspect immediately comply with your command?
He didn't comply with anything we said.
Okay.
After he was startled, he began darting to his right,
Mm-hmm.
to my left,
Mm-hmm.
and taking up some kind of. It's hard to describe how he reacted,
Mm-hmm.
but the best I can say or describe it was a startled reaction,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was a movement as though he was either going to take off running or he was going to seek cover behind that immediate aisle, that first aisle, something to that effect. But he was darting as he was moving, while he was still at low ready with the rifle.
Okay.
Still had it in his hands like this.
Okay.
And he kind of turned and began moving in that direction. And in my mind, I'm thinking there's no way we can allow someone who's already waved and pointed this gun at people, possibly loaded, and an assault rifle, to get out of our contained area and get into the general public where I know there's all kinds of people.
So your perception was he didn't comply. You gave him what you thought were specific orders. He wasn't complying. The orders were repeated, and then Williams fired.
Twice.
Okay. Did you recall hearing it twice?
Yeah.
You recall? Okay. Let's stay on that for a minute, Dave. Why didn't you fire?
Like I said, I took up a little bit more what I felt was a tactical position behind the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when you do that, if the suspect moves, you have less of a vantage point.
Okay.
He moved to a position where my line of fire decreased as he went to his right, my left.
Okay.
Even though I was in a little bit, I would say, more of a tactical position behind cover, I lost that line of sight when he went that direction.
Okay.
Where Sean...
Detectives probe Darkow's mindset during the encounter, focusing on his belief that Crawford was an armed and dangerous threat. Darkow admits he did not fire his weapon because his vantage point limited his line of sight, leaving Williams to take the lead. He emphasizes the training they had received for active shooter scenarios, which conditioned them to neutralize threats swiftly. This segment reveals how deeply training and prior assumptions shaped Darkow's actions. Forensic experts would examine how cognitive biases, informed by the 911 call, framed Crawford's behavior as threatening, despite later evidence proving otherwise.
Sean was towards the middle of the aisle, maybe in a less tactical position for him as far as defensively, but he had a better line of fire.
Okay.
He didn't lose the suspect like I did. Now, had he continued, or had Sean not been able to shoot him before he made it, I would have been in a better position to get to that next aisle over.
Okay.
But he dropped before he got there.
Okay. Did anything? What other? You're 17-year-old veteran of law enforcement. You've had a ton of training.
Yeah.
What other specialty training have you had personally? Do you qualify every year on your firearm?
Every year.
Okay. Are you qualified on the AR-15 that you carry?
Yep.
Okay. You just took active shooter. You do that every year, at least for the past several years, many years.
Yeah.
It's become an issue.
Yeah. I've been on the SWAT team, the area SWAT team.
You have been on the SWAT team?
I've been on that 14 years.
Okay. Did anything that you did yourself that night violate any of the training that you've had?
No.
Did anything that you saw Williams do, including firing his weapon at the suspect, violate any training that you've had or that you know that he has had?
No.
Okay. Did you feel he was justified in pulling the trigger at that point?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been, could you estimate? I used to do the run active shooter training for the Attorney General's office too. In my recollection, let's say I know approximately when that all started. How long going back do you think like your department got more involved in saying we're going to have annual active shooter training? Has it been every year of your 17 years?
No.
Okay.
As you know, I mean, Columbine changed a lot. So, I would say shortly after law enforcement recognized that we can't do what we did at Columbine, that's when quad training first came out.
Right.
Our department's very proactive on our training, and I can't imagine as soon as law enforcement community took a different position after Columbine and started instituting that quad training, I would say it would have to be very shortly after that we started training that way here.
And there's even some schools, like my niece's school just finally started the ALICE training, and we've known that schools have been doing that for 5, 7, 10 years or whatever you call it. But the run, hide, fight instead of the break and cover. So it's a different world basically than the days. Were you at any point in your training, going back 17 years, trained to secure a scene, mobilize outside, and then come up with a plan to go inside?
Well, yes.
Okay, and is it fair to say, or you tell me, has that approach changed in your 17 years?
Yeah, that approach has evolved.
Okay.
As critical incidents have enlightened the law enforcement community on how we've needed to change that.
Right. So possibly, just going back, I'm not asking this the date of 17 years ago, but possibly in that time, or you're at least aware, going back, law enforcement used to have a certain approach that was thought to be a best practice, was stay outside, keep everybody from getting hurt, and we'll come up with a plan out there.
Yeah, that's more of a pre-Columbine type of thought process.
And so is it fair to say, is that what you're getting at, Dave? Is it fair to say that now that officers or first responders are expected to engage the shooter?
Yes.
Okay, and is that what you feel like you did that night?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Officers are now taught to engage the shooter quickly to try to minimize any casualties.
Dave, when you said you remember the suspect going down, and to your recollection, that's after the shots were fired.
Correct.
Okay. And he gets back up?
He at least attempted to.
Okay.
I remember thinking in my mind whether he'd actually hit him or not, because he went down initially and then almost started to struggle to get back up again. I'm trying.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm trying to remember if I started to go back towards that other aisle when he. I thought that I did. That second, I glanced towards that second aisle to see whether he was going to get up and start running, because that would have been more my responsibility at that point if he had done that, because I was on that side and would have had a better angle of that second aisle than Sean did out in the first immediate aisle.
Understood. And understanding again of all that was encapsulated in those brief moments that night, do you recall if when the suspect went down, was he still armed at the time? Do you recall that?
I think he dropped the rifle after he was hit.
Okay. So he's hit and he's down. He looks to be getting back up. Did you, at the time, you already answered this, Dave, but at the time you saw the suspect with the weapon, did you think the suspect was a threat?
When he had the weapon?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay. When he goes down and he gets back up, was he potentially still a threat to you, even if the gun's on the ground? Is it hard to say at this point what you were thinking at that time?
Of course, anybody who's willing to put themselves in the position he had done is going to be perceived as a threat by me.
Okay. And
we don't know if he's armed with anything else. I mean, just because he doesn't have the rifle anymore doesn't mean he's not armed anymore.
Right. And even though Officer Williamson just fired, the suspect gets back up, you guys don't fire on him again.
No.
He goes back down on his own volition or somehow.
Correct.
Okay. Why didn't you guys fire again?
We could see clearly at that point that that he was no longer a threat.
Okay, so are you trying to say he went down very quickly after he got back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened very quickly. He struggled to try to get back up and went right back down again and stayed down.
Okay, so
that's when we approached.
So when he's getting back up, he's still a potential threat, and that's in your mind, but then he's going down right away, so it changed it pretty quickly.
Right. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, did he get hit? Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure if he had gotten hit because he's starting to get back up again, but then he goes right back down again, and so I thought, I guess he did. I mean,
okay, yeah.
This is all happening with
We're
within split seconds.
We're well aware.
Half
we're
second.
Well aware. We appreciate you walking through it a bunch of times. I know it's difficult to do. Dave, do you have any prior involvement in shooting incidents?
No.
Okay.
I've been on shooting incidents, but not to this degree where I'm actually involved in the shooting incident.
Okay. All right. So, well, take me there. You've arrived after a shooting has occurred, or you've been there? Have you observed other officers shoot?
Closing the interrogation. In the final phase, detectives question Darkow about his understanding of the events in hindsight. He acknowledges learning later that Crawford's weapon was a pellet gun, but insists that their actions aligned with the information available at the time. Darkow maintains that the shooting was justified based on the perceived threat to public safety. Forensic experts would scrutinize the systemic factors at play, such as the role of miscommunication and over-reliance on unverified 911 reports. Darkow's unwavering belief in his actions highlights the challenges of accountability in cases involving split-second decisions.